It's Roger once again, Mud Fossil University, on the trail of the unexplained and explaining it. These are sprites. These are seen now fairly regularly, and I've been watching them for years now, and I'm going to go back a couple of years on videos and show you the progression of what I understand to be. These are related to sinkholes. I know you, oh, are related to sinkholes. Well, I'll explain it in a minute. But these are not, they think they shoot downward. They don't shoot downward. This is literally a lightning, because there's so much electrical activity here, and that electrical activity is literally caused by almost like laser light going straight up, and that's why it shoots up in these flashes up here, and that's where the main interaction is. But there's so much electricity now in this one area that it can't maintain itself there, and it shoots down to Earth exactly like you would expect. Exactly. Now, they originate on Earth, and you say, well, how did that happen? Well, I'll show you why. Some of them are city blocks, and some of them are several city blocks. Now, what you're seeing here is, this is the skin of the Earth, and down below, let's say it was down to here was the skin of the Earth, but here it appears to be quite thick. However, down, sometimes they're 200, 300, 400, 500 feet down before you hit moisture. So you have a skin here, and then you have a huge cavity underneath, and that cavity, it gets filled with gases, with hydrocarbons. And then when the plug drops, if it swiggles down slow, you get, literally, it will shoot up a beam of light, you know, fast, but it will last for a long time. Now, if it drops instantaneously, the pulse will be so incredible, it will cause some serious damage to anything that is above it. That's my expectation, and it appears to have happened. All right, and it literally is happening all over the world now. Very, very serious. Huge, huge, huge gaping holes. Russia, it's a disaster. I talked to the Russians about it, and they have a problem out there. Well, we all have a problem, so it's not just them. So anyway, this is these are dropping. They're collapsing. So start from here, and then see what I have to say. Alright, this goes back a couple of years ago. This is Sprite theory from Nova. I saw it on Nova, and I disputed it. So I went against it. Now, you see what they're showing? This was when they had Sprite, the best Sprites they could show. But I showed that it was coming off. It comes from under the Earth there, not from outer space down. You see, it originates way down there. So they just don't understand it. And they're thinking it's coming out of the sky, and they're all getting real excited. No. So let's get away from that one. But see it? Look, see it? That's just coming up to there. It's not coming from there down. It's shooting up, and the stuff is falling out of the sky. That's just kind of scary. I don't know what that is. That's what I did mention in that video, too. Now we're going to see something that really shows it off. You see this? Look. All right? This, I'm going to find the good spots. Hold on. All right, this goes back to when Obama was going to let them drill in the Arctic, and I went insane and flooded the system with this kind of stuff, because it's dangerous. I mean, this is not good. Now, you see this? Well, first of all, you see this. As these pilots were flying over the, I think it's Pacific, Atlantic, wherever, it's over the ocean, all of a sudden they see all these holes, and they see this straight up beam going through up in the sky, and they're thinking, whoa, what the hell is this? And they said they were scared to death. Well, you come out here and you look, you see these are the sinkholes that are coming from all around the Earth. Now, you look at that and you say, whoa, that is a serious sinkhole. Absolutely. And why are these happening? Well, they're happening because we sucked everything out of the ground. That's what happened. We sucked everything out of the ground. So what do we end up with? You end up with a layer across the surface, and the surface of the Earth, underneath it, and almost everywhere, literally, that I can find, is covered with these huge, huge holes like this. I call them biodigesters. And when all of the organic material falls into these voids, and with the water and all the different materials and moisture and everything, they rot and decay and cause huge amounts of gases and pressures, and that's where the hydrocarbons originate. Well, once we sucked all the stuff out of the earth, these became huge cannons ready to explode. Now, what would cause them to explode? Well, in Tianjin, China, I believe the Chinese chemical factory, the heat there caused the surface to give way, and it dropped down, and after the chemicals were lit all up and heated up so much, when that dropped down, boom, that's when it went off. And I mean, that was an absolute nightmare, and it left a gigantic crater. Now, what I'm saying is these do something that nobody understands. It's atomic shock. And I have papers on that, and I did videos on that. And I believe these might even be able to take down airplanes, and I will show you why I can say that. By the way, this goes back a couple of years too. This goes back 3 years as well. That's a sinkhole collapsing right now during a volcano. And when it does, it will release a pulse that shoots off into space. And I'm going to show it in other places. But that was, that's part one. Part two, it collapsed totally. You see here? Boom. See that? That was the pulse. You see these things shooting all over? Absolutely phenomenal. This is part two, when the entire mountain collapsed. And I mean, it just sunk. It just dropped in like there was nothing left. And this is what's happening all over the earth. So anyway, this is serious. Now, and this is, what happens is the atomic shock. Let's go into that. All right, this is really a pretty good video. This goes back 3 years too. Now, and it's about atomic shock, and this shows how sometimes they're slow. When the plug sinks down into these huge voids and compresses and causes this atomic shock, because these are hydrocarbons, these are methane gases, these are hydrogen atoms, very, very, very atomic, reactive, and they shoot off. Once this pulse drops, once that plug drops, if it wiggles its way down slowly, you're going to burn in the atmosphere like this for literally for a minute or two, and then finally it'll burn out. But sometimes they'll just drop fast, and whoosh, that's when you get these pulses. I'm going to show this in a number of ways, but if you come way out to here, it goes into the I have papers on all this, and they understand it a very small amount, because all they were looking at was how it is compressed hydrogen in these containers were spontaneously exploding, and they could not understand why, and they were thinking it was a spark, and it's not a spark. It has nothing to do with a spark. It is shock. And what I mean by that is, if you take a hydrogen tank that is so compressed and those molecules are so forced together, and you try to additionally force more in there, even with a ball-peen hammer or something, or drop it and slam it so hard that there's a molecular push, they will explode sometimes. Apparently this is what they found, and so I was studying that. But that's the that was why they were talking about this, and it goes into all kinds of stuff about it. But then I get into the end down here, and I start talking about all the sprites and how all this affects. Now, so I've already talked about it. If you want to go out here and look at Atomic Shock Explained by Mud Fossils, that was my old channel, Mud Fossils, Space Mud Fossils. Now I have a new channel. It's Mud Fossil University, and I imagine you're here now, so that's where I am. Alright, you can go up and watch this one too. This I put up again. I did this a long time. I put it up again a couple of months ago, because it's got every detail. Here's these pulses going off. They look like absolute laser beams going into the sky. Here's one that's shooting up in the sky, and look at this. There's a waterspout right next to it, or a tornado, or whatever it is, and that is disturbing the surface of the Earth's skin. That's why it dropped into there and created that to go up, shoot up like that. And then I had this Sprite theory was over here. Now, I got something else I want to show you. Okay, take one more look at this. You see what's happening here. There's an extreme interaction. Extreme. I don't care. There's nobody can say anything different. It is extreme. And it's so much electrical energy that it can't handle it, and it has to discharge. And that's why this whole glow is here. and through my research, I have found that anytime there is a glow, that means there's a force of electrons against other electrons. And I can tell that they are coming from the Earth, from everything I checked out, and I showed you that. Now, I'm going to show you something else that happened, and that's why this is a little more important. And this happens during high pressure, low pressure on the surface of the Earth, tornadoes, hurricanes, and as you saw, that little waterspout. Okay, this was, I believe, a Sprite event. Now, this goes back a couple years ago, and they're going to show these holes here were shot, and they have no clue how it happened, but what they said when they got to the airport was that they had passed over a bright glowing light. Now, that was not the case. A bright glowing light shot up and smashed into the bottom of this plane. That is my take. That is obviously something burned there. There's no question whatsoever. What could cause that quick of a burn to something in the air? Now, they thought it was a UFO. I say no. I say it was a Sprite. And I come out here somewhere, and then I show all this stuff about the Sprites. And here they are. They're shooting off beams all over the world. See, there's no beam here, and all of a sudden, boom. And you see these clouds? Every time you see them, they're dark. Something's going on. There's some kind of a storm brewing. It's a high pressure, low pressure. The surface of the Earth, the skin of the Earth is moving up and down. That is the case. And there's so many holes in there now that they're just dropping in, and they're seeing these everywhere. And that is and it's an atomic shock. That's what I'm claiming. All right, I'm going to just sum it up. Totally simple. There's a giant hole here, and the fluids should be up here. They're not. They're down here. So what happens? Here's your fluid level. This skin cracks here under some atmospheric pressure variation. It drops, compressing CH4, which is methane. That is extremely volatile gas. As it crushes it, the hydrogens force into each other's regions, just shooting off a beam of electrons, basically. Those electrons they just shoot up there in that beam we saw. They enter into the ionosphere, which is loaded with other electrons. They smash into those electrons, causing these spikes to shoot up here. And they're of extreme glow, and they fill this with so many electrons, they can't accept them. The Earth says send them down as those little bzz, 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 and that's exactly what the case is. That's Sprites. Come to Mud Fossil University on YouTube. Tell your people to come up, your friends, everybody you know. Get educated.